Jai Gurudev, and thank you for joining us today. Today, again, we have with us an art feeling expert and an officer of the Vedic Dharma Sansthan. So, thank you for joining us today. We are here to explore not just cricketing history, but the spiritual essence behind one of its greatest moments, the 2001 Eden Gardens Test match where VVS Laxman and Rahul Dravid scripted an epic partnership to begin. So, can you explain how Karma Yoga connects to cricket, especially in the context of that game? Yes, Jai Gurudev, thank you for joining us today. So, Karma Yoga, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, is the art of acting with complete dedication without attachment to the fruits of action. In cricket, every player faces uncertainty. Runs may or may not come, wickets may fall, and results are never guaranteed. The 2001 Eden Gardens Test was a living example of Karma Yoga. India was forced to follow on after a crushing first innings, and no one expected them to bounce back. Yet VVS Laxman, with Rahul Dravid's support, batted with such grace, detachment, and concentration that the impossible became possible. Now, how did Lakshman's 281 reflect Karma Yoga in action? Lakshman was not playing for personal records. He was not thinking about a burden of history, but facing Shane Warne or Glenn McGraw or even about the looming defeat. He focused on one ball at a time, one stroke at a time. That is pure Karma Yoga, total involvement in the present action without anxiety over the outcome. His 281 runs weren't just statistics, they embodied the Gita's teaching. You have the right to action alone, not to the fruits thereof. By embodying this principle, he transformed despair into hope and defeat into the greatest victory. The Australians under Steve Waugh were on their final frontier mission or to conquer India. How does the idea of Karma Yoga explain the Indian team's resistance? Australia were ruthless, confident, and disciplined, but they were deeply attached to their goal, winning in India, the last unconquered land. Attachment creates pressure. India, however, had nothing to lose. Lakshman, Dravid, and later Harbhajan Singh operated in a spirit of surrender. Their intent was not revenge but resilience. When one acts without ego, without fear of loss or craving for victory, a new kind of strength arises. That's what we saw, a tired corner team discovering energy beyond human calculation. Now, many call that match the turning point of world cricket. Would you say Karma Yoga was the deeper reason behind this transformation? Absolutely, that test wasn't just a sporting miracle, it was a shift in collective consciousness. Until then, Australia dominated the world ruthlessly. After Eden Gardens, they knew cricket was not only about skill but about spirit. Karma Yoga teaches us that inner strength born of surrender and focus can topple the mightiest force. From that moment, Indian cricket believed in itself and world cricket saw India as a new superpower. Now, could you say Lakshman's innings is the greatest example of Karma Yoga in cricketing history? Without doubt, his 281 was not played with aggression or showmanship, but with serenity. It was meditation in motion. Every cover drive was like a mantra, every flick was like a prayer. He was playing for the team, for the moment, not for himself. That is why it is remembered not merely as runs, but as the embodiment of selfless action, Karma Yoga itself. Finally, what lesson can young cricketers and even ordinary people draw from that Eden Gardens test? Whether on the cricket field or in life, do your best without clinging to results. Focus on the task in front of you. When challenges appear insurmountable, surrender the outcome and give your 100% to the process. Just as Lakshman and Dravid turned hopelessness into history, we too can transform our struggles into victories if we embrace Karma Yoga. Now, many call VVS Lakshman's 281 at Eden Gardens the greatest test innings of all time. How does Karma Yoga explain this approach? Absolutely. Karma Yoga, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, is about performing one's duty with total dedication without being attached to the outcome. When India was following on against Steve Waugh's dominant Australian team, the situation looked hopeless. Most would have collapsed under the pressure of carrying a nation's expectations, but Lakshman batted as though he was free from the burden of results. Every ball became his meditation, every stroke an offering. That is pure Karma Yoga, action performed with excellence but without ego or fear. This 281 wasn't just about runs, it was about showing the world how detached focus can create miracles. How did the partnership between Lakshman and Rahul Dravid reflect the deeper philosophy of Karma Yoga? Their partnership was not just a cricketing act, it was a spiritual teamwork in action. Dravid, known as the wall, embodied steadiness, while Lakshman flowed with artistry. Together, they surrendered to the process, ball after ball, session after session, without obsessing about the final score. Karma Yoga teaches that success is not about chasing victory, but about offering your best in the present moment. That is exactly what they did, staying in the now, respecting each delivery and trusting the larger plan. By the end, they not only changed the match but changed cricket forever, breaking Australia's aura of invincibility and showing how selfless, fearless action can alter destiny. Now, how did Steve Waugh's idea of the final frontier add spiritual significance to India's resistance at Eden Gardens? Steve openly called Indian team the final frontier for his Australian team. They had conquered every other nation, but India's spin, passion, and unpredictability remained unconquered. Spiritually, this mirrors life's greatest challenges. There is always one test that humbles even the strongest. Was his team arrived with supreme confidence, but also attachment to the idea of achieving something historic? Attachment, as the Gita teaches, breeds tension. On the other hand, the Indian team, already forced to follow on, had nothing to lose. This detachment became their hidden strength. The Lakshman and Dravid exemplified Karma Yoga. They acted without craving victory or fearing failure. Their partnership turned into an offering, not a chase. By resisting the world's best side, India didn't just stop Australia. They showed the world that true strength comes from surrendering to action, not clinging to results. Thus, what was meant to be the Australia's final frontier became India's spiritual frontier the moment a new self belief was born. How did Harbhajan Singh's role in that match connect with Karma Yoga alongside Lakshman's innings? Harbhajan Singh's bowling was as karmic as Lakshman's batting. Remember, he wasn't the first choice spinner. Injuries and circumstances pushed him forward, yet he rose to the occasion with a fearless energy. Just as Karma Yoga teaches, he didn't dwell on past failures or future doubts. He focused on each ball. His hat trick in the first innings broke the myth of Australian invincibility, planting the seed for belief. Later, defending a target of 384, he kept bowling tirelessly, embodying perseverance without attachment. Harbhajan showed that Karma Yoga is not just calm elegance like Lakshman's, but also fiery intensity with surrender. Together, their contributions blended serenity and aggression, artistry, and persistence. This balance is the essence of Karma Yoga, action done fully without ego, aligned with a higher purpose. Now, many say the atmosphere at Eden Gardens was electric. How did the energy of the crowd align with Karma Yoga? Eden Gardens is not just a stadium, it is a temple of cricket. On that match day in 2001, the crowd witnessed something beyond sport. When India followed on, silence ruled the stands as if collective hope had vanished. But as Lakshman began to stroke the ball with effortless grace and Dravid anchored at the other end, a transformation occurred. The crowd rose session by session, cheering not just runs but resilience. Karma Yoga teaches that energy flows where attention goes. As the players surrender to the moment, the spectators too move from despair to faith. Their chants, claps, and roars became part of the karma, the offering of collective intention. In spiritual terms, this was satsang when a group gathers with one pointed devotion. Miracles happen. By the final day, the atmosphere was electric with surrender, belief, and joy. It was as though the entire city of Kolkata had become one body, one soul, fueling the Indian team's karmic action. This union of player and crowd was pure yoga, the dissolution of separation, the rising of a shared consciousness. Now, how did Rahul Dravid's contribution complement Lakshman's in the Karma Yoga framework? Dravid's 180 was equally vital, though often overshadowed by Lakshman's 281. If Lakshman was the artist painting strokes of elegance, Dravid was the foundation stone, steady and unshakable. Karma Yoga isn't only about brilliance, it is also about discipline, patience, and selflessness. Dravid showed this by tirelessly batting even while dehydrated and exhausted, never losing concentration. He embraced his dharma, the role of the dependable number three, without complaint or desire for personal glory. Together, he and Lakshman mirrored the balance of yin and yang or Shiva and Shakti. Lakshman's flow represented beauty and spontaneity. Dravid's presence embodied steadiness and endurance. In Karma Yoga, both qualities are essential: action infused with creativity and action grounded in discipline. Their 376-run partnership was not just runs on the board, it was a living lesson that when opposites harmonize in selfless purpose, greatness is achieved. This is why that stand is remembered not merely as cricketing brilliance, but as spiritual synergy, the two men acting without ego, aligned in dharma, creating history. How does the idea of detachment from results explain the Indian team's turnaround after being forced to follow on? At the start of the third innings, India had been asked to follow on, a humiliation in Test cricket. Most teams collapse under such pressure because they obsess over their team near certain defeat. But this is where Karma Yoga comes alive. The Indian team, especially Lakshman and Dravid, stopped worrying about what will happen. Instead, they surrender to the act of batting. Detachment is not carelessness. It is caring deeply about the effort while letting go of fear or greed. Once Lakshman and Dravid settled into this mindset, every ball became just another opportunity, not a step toward doom, but a chance to express their skill. That shift in consciousness transformed the game. The Australians who were attached to victory began to feel the weight of expectation, while India, detached from fear of loss, found freedom. This inversion of psychology was a true turning point. It showed that even in moments of extreme crisis, when one practices Karma Yoga, the impossible becomes possible. Now, what spiritual lessons does VVS Lakshman's batting style itself teach us about Karma Yoga? Lakshman's batting was unlike anyone else's, silken, graceful, and seemingly effortless. Each flick through mid-wicket or cover drive felt like a flow of energy rather than a stroke of force. Spiritually, this reflects the essence of Karma action in alignment with nature. Without resistance, he didn't fight the ball, he caressed it. He didn't battle the bowler, he respected him and responded with poise. In life too, Karma Yoga doesn't mean fighting against situations aggressively, but responding with harmony and creativity. Lakshman's style showed that strength need not always be brute power, it can also be elegance born of surrender. His innings became a moving meditation where time slowed and the boundary rope seemed merely an extension of his will. Young cricketers can learn that real mastery comes not from aggression or ego, but from aligning talent with selflessness. In that sense, his 281 was more than cricket, it was the Gita written in cover drives and leg glances, reminding us that true action is artful, detached, and divine. Jai Gurudev.